Iran Daily Briefing. Wednesday, April 22, 2026. President Trump has extended the US ceasefire with Iran indefinitely, buying time for peace talks in Pakistan that nearly collapsed before they began. Iran had not confirmed it would send a delegation. The ceasefire deadline was today. We'll have the full picture in a moment, but first, 3 container ships were struck by gunfire in the Strait of Hormuz this morning. That's where we start. This is Wednesday, April 22, 2026. We are, by Al Jazeera's count, on day 54 of the US-Iran war. The past 24 hours have been defined by one question. Would the 2-week ceasefire hold past its Wednesday deadline? The short answer is yes, Trump extended it. But the circumstances around that extension tell you something about how fragile this moment is. Iran had not committed to attending talks. Pakistan was scrambling, and 3 ships came under fire in the Strait of Hormuz this morning, even as diplomats were still working the phones. Today's episode covers the ceasefire extension and what it does and doesn't settle, the situation in the Strait, an execution in Tehran that draws in Israel, and a disappeared teenager whose family buried him 60 days after he vanished. Let's start with the ceasefire. The 2-week truce between the United States and Iran was set to expire today, Wednesday. France 24 reports that Trump extended it on Tuesday, just hours before hostilities were set to resume. He credited Pakistan's request as the reason for the extension. A note on timing. The exact date of Trump's announcement varies across sources. Al Monitor places the announcement on April 22, today. France 24 and NPR describe it as occurring on Tuesday, ahead of Wednesday's deadline. We cannot reconcile those accounts with the sourcing available to us this morning. What Trump's Tuesday statement included, as reported by France 24. He said the ceasefire would be extended indefinitely, and he said a US delegation would travel to Pakistan for talks with Iran. France 24 also reports Trump described Iran's leadership as fractured while stressing the need to give Iran time to form a proposal. Trump has also renewed threats of military action if no agreement is reached, though today's sourcing does not confirm whether this came in the same statement as the ceasefire extension announcement. The blockade piece matters too. France 24 reports. Trump said he would maintain a blockade of Tehran's ports even with the ceasefire extended. That's a significant qualifier on what ceasefire means in practice. Now, Iran's side. As of Tuesday, Iranian state television reported the Iranian delegation had not yet departed for Islamabad. France 24 reports Iran said it had still not decided whether to attend. Pakistan's Information Minister Ataullah Tarar posted on X that Iran's decision was critical with hours remaining. He also confirmed that a formal response from Tehran confirming delegation attendance had not been received. Iran also stated, separately, that it has new, quote, cards to play on the battlefield if the war resumes. France 24 carries that statement, though without further detail on what that means in concrete terms. France 24 also spoke with Dr. Burcu Ojelik, a senior research fellow for Middle East security at RUSI, the Royal United Services Institute, a London-based defense think tank. She argues Iran is simultaneously responding to external pressure while trying to protect its nuclear program and its regional influence. That framing helps explain the hesitation over Islamabad. Attending talks carries its own risks for Tehran, domestically and strategically. NPR spoke with Scott Roker of the Nuclear Threat Initiative about one of the open questions in any eventual settlement, how the US might handle Iran's highly enriched uranium. Highly enriched uranium is the material at the center of international concerns about Iran's nuclear program. No timeline is attached to that question in current reporting. It's a problem that remains unsolved, and Roker's conversation with NPR reflects the fact that policymakers are still working through even the theoretical shape of a solution. France 24 also reports that control of the Strait of Hormuz remains an unresolved major issue in the peace talks, which brings us to this morning. 3 container ships were targeted by gunfire in the Strait of Hormuz on Wednesday, according to France 24, citing sources close to maritime security and the UKMTO, the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations, the body that monitors commercial shipping safety in the region. No claim of responsibility has been reported in today's intel. The timing, hours into a freshly extended ceasefire, is a fact worth noting. We are not characterizing it further than the sourcing allows. What to watch? Whether Iran formally confirms attendance at the Islamabad talks, and whether the Strait of Hormuz incidents prompt any response from Washington or Tehran. Story 1. The Strait of Hormuz. We covered Hormuz as part of the top story, but it warrants its own beat this morning. France 24 reports 3 container ships came under fire in the strait on Wednesday. The UKMTO confirmed the incidents. No further details on damage, casualties, or the source of the gunfire are available from today's reporting. France 24 also notes that control of the strait remains an unresolved issue in the US-Iran peace talks. Watch for any formal attribution of the Hormuz incidents and any reaction from the US military or Iran's government. Story 2. The execution of Mehdi Farid. Iran executed a man named Mehdi Farid early Wednesday morning. Iran International reports he was convicted of spying for Israel. Middle East Eye, citing Iran's Mizan news agency, reports he was hanged after the Supreme Court upheld his conviction for spying for Israeli intelligence. Middle East Eye describes Farid as a senior civil defense official. That characterization is Middle East Eye's, based on Mizan news agency, and is not corroborated by Iran International's reporting. The execution comes in the middle of active, if fragile, ceasefire diplomacy. Iran has executed individuals convicted of working with Israel before. This is not without precedent in today's reporting context, but the timing is notable given where negotiations stand. Watch for any official Iranian statement on the execution and whether it draws a response from Israeli or US officials. Story 3. A teenager who disappeared. Iran International, and we have not been able to independently verify this report through a second source, reports that a 14-year-old student disappeared during protests near Tehran on January 8. 60 days later, his family received his body. He had a gunshot wound to the temple. No Iranian government statement on the case is included in today's reporting. No name has been provided in the intel available to us. The account comes from a single source. Watch for whether human rights organizations or international bodies take up this case in their public reporting. Story 4. The strike on Prince Sultan Air Base. Middle East Eye reports that an Iranian strike on Prince Sultan Air Base damaged a US airborne warning and control aircraft. Middle East Eye dates that strike to March 30, 2026. We have not been able to independently confirm that date. The airborne warning and control aircraft, sometimes called an AWACS, a large radar platform used for battlefield surveillance and coordination, is a significant military asset. The report comes from a single source. No US military statement confirming or denying the damage is included in today's available reporting. Watch for any US military acknowledgement of damage to assets at Prince Sultan Air Base. We opened this morning with 3 container ships struck by gunfire in the Strait of Hormuz. Here is the fuller picture. France 24 reports the incidents occurred on Wednesday, confirmed by the UKMTO and sources close to maritime security. No party has claimed responsibility in today's reporting. The Strait of Hormuz is simultaneously an active diplomatic flashpoint. France 24 reports it remains an unresolved issue in US-Iran peace talks, and a physical corridor where this morning commercial vessels came under fire. The ceasefire extension announced by Trump covers US and Iranian forces. It does not, based on today's sourcing, resolve the question of who controls what happens in the strait. Here is what to watch in the next 24 to 48 hours. 1. Iran's decision on Islamabad. As of Tuesday, Tehran had not confirmed attendance at the Pakistan-hosted peace talks. That decision, if and when it comes, is the hinge on which the next phase of diplomacy turns. Watch for any statement from Iranian state media or from Pakistan's information ministry. 2. The U.S. delegation's arrival. NPR and France 24. Both report Trump said a U.S. delegation would travel to Pakistan. Watch for confirmation of Vice President J.D. Vance's travel. His trip was previously described by France 24 as on hold pending Iran's decision. 3. The Strait of Hormuz. 3 ships were struck this morning. Watch for attribution and for any military or diplomatic response from Washington or Tehran. 4. The port blockade. France 24. Samoud reports Trump said the blockade of Tehran's ports would continue even with the ceasefire extended. Watch for any Iranian response to that specific condition. 5. Iran's uranium. NPR spoke with Scott Racker of the Nuclear Threat Initiative about the question of how the US might handle Iran's highly enriched uranium in any eventual agreement. No timeline has been attached to this question in current reporting. But as talks, if they happen, move into substance, this is one of the concrete issues that will have to be addressed. Today's briefing covered the indefinite extension of the US-Iran ceasefire, Iran's unresolved decision on peace talks in Islamabad, gunfire targeting 3 container ships in the Strait of Hormuz, the execution of Mehdi Farid following a conviction for spying, a teenager killed during protests near Tehran, and a reported Iranian strike on Prince Sultan Air Base. We'll be back tomorrow morning with whatever the next 24 hours bring. If you found today's briefing valuable, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. New episodes every morning.